earlier from about maybe 5 to the hour of 10 o'clock. Reason being, we want to make sure everything is in order for this morning, a National Assembly that's coming up at 10 o'clock. This morning program is sponsored by National Bank. We're going to get it right into policing with you in just a bit.
Stop standing in long ATM lines to withdraw cash. Use your national debit or black cards to complete a wide variety of transactions at supermarkets, variety stores, gas stations, pharmacies, and more. Shop online at the most popular websites and stores for quality brands using your national debit or black cards. And take back your time to enjoy all the things that you love to do. Remember, instead of waiting in long ATM lines to withdraw cash, use your National Bank cards today.
National Bank, always here.
Good morning, welcome back. I'm your moderator for this morning and our host this morning. I almost say Superintendent Francis because he's in the studio. He's one of our rotating hosts. But it's Sergeant Richards this morning.
Yes, GK. That's what happens when you have repeat faces all the time.
Yes.
But good morning to our listeners out there in Radio Land, both home and abroad, and to all those viewing via the internet. This is another edition of Policing with You, brought to you by the kind folks down there at National Bank. GQ, this morning we have two very senior officers in the studio this morning.
Yes.
What I would consider heavyweights in the police force.
Yes.
One of whom is my boss.
Yes.
So I'll allow them to introduce themselves to our audience.
Okay, I'll go first. Good morning to all. Morning to you, GQ, and good morning to everybody out there listening by whatever means. I am Superintendent Chavez Rogers. Presently, I am the Tactical Units Commander. That comprises of the Special Services Unit, the Anti-Narcotics Unit, and which includes the Kenai Unit for the Anti-Narcotics Unit, and the Anti-Gang Task Force.
Okay.
Okay, good morning to everyone listening, both on the internet, internationally, regionally, locally. I'm Superintendent James Francis. I'm second in charge of the Crime Directorate. These units, this directorate comprises of a lot of units. We're talking about the court, the forensic unit, criminal investigation department, several other units under the Crime Directorate. Yes.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Now, the reason they're here this morning, GQ, and I'm sorry, I don't know if I said it. I'm your host this morning, Sergeant Trevor Richards. I don't remember if I said it.
But I introduced you.
Yes, you did. The reason we have the two superintendents here this morning, GQ, is that these have been some trying times for all of us because of the pandemic and COVID and all that. Mm-hmm. And some persons feel that, we're essential workers, so we just get up and go, irrespective of. And truth be told, we took an oath to do that. However, I brought them here to explain to us how COVID would have affected both them personally as managers of their respective areas and the officers under their command. Okay. So that we show more or less the human side of policing.
Right.
So my first question to both of you. Firstly, if you could give an overview of the departments you both command.
Okay, yes. I mentioned the tactical units and the composition of that unit. Let's talk about the Special Services Unit, which most persons would know them as the SSU. Those guys who wear the video, the blues. And what their role is, I've been the commander and the overall head. Their role is basically to do counterinsurgencies. That's internal aggression, external aggression. There's attack on internally, attack on the country or the government, whether policies or otherwise, and our unit is tasked to rebut that.
Right.
External aggression is outside interference, violence against the country. So we're tasked with protecting the country and whole. We're also tasked with VIP protection, the government and its affiliates, whether it be guard duties, whether it be close protection and government events. We do regional assistance because we are part and parcel of the RSS, the regional security system, and we are one of the 7 islands that are involved.
Okay.
So, for example, our latest deployment was the volcano in St. Vincent. And when you have any upsurge in other region countries that are part of the RSS, then we'll be deployed. Disaster, and there's a hurricane, whether it be locally or regional, then we are deployed. I think we were deployed in hurricane in Dominica. I think could have been last year or the year before. So we're also involved for the SSU for marijuana cultivation eradication. With that end, I would go down to the drug squad, our anti-narcotics unit. They are involved in say marijuana cultivation eradication, interdiction, investigation of major drug cases and minor drug cases, educating the public about the do and the don'ts and the laws that relates to drug and its affiliates. The anti-gang now, they are, as it spells out, anti-gang. They are against gangs, and this was established a few years ago. It's the youngest of the units, and they deal with hotspots, where you have gangs and hotspots to do whether interdiction, whether fight against any crime that falls within the precincts of the gang act, sorry. And this is done in St. Kitts and Nevis, but more so on St. Kitts, because Nevis has a task force that do the same thing. So, but that's how the anti-gang involved. The Kenai unit now, they of course, they are dog affiliated unit, and they do canine duties, drug interdiction, firearm, search and rescue to some aspect, and also explosives like the sweep at stadiums and like CPL, World Cups, football, to ensure that there is no contrabands or any devices that are useful for explosion to those events. Okay. And that's basically it. It's headed by myself, and my inspector is Inspector Alric Edwards, and we have sergeants and corporal down below, along with a large group of men.
Right, that's all part of your team.
Yes, yes.
Superintendent Francis, now let's hear from you.
Yes, GQ. Thank you very much. From the Crime Directorate, I'm second in charge of the Crime Directorate. I report directly to ACP Mitchell. He's the Assistant Commissioner of Police in the Crime Directorate, who reports upwards. My role as the second in charge of the Crime Directorate is to oversee all investigations, because one of the main objectives of the Crime Directorate is to investigate crimes. That is our main objective, to investigate crimes. From time to time, we assist the Operation Directorate with patrols. However, our main objective is to investigate crimes. The units that fall under the Crime Directorate, we have the Criminal Investigation Department. We have a unit in Division A, Division B, which is town, primarily town, the countryside, and in Nevis. So we have a Criminal Investigation Department. That department deals with crimes in terms of house break-ins and those felonies. Then we have the Violent Crime Unit. The Violent Crime Unit deals with violent crimes, murders and those kind of attempted murders and things of that nature. And we have a unit in A, which is St. Kitts. We have a unit in St. Kitts that deals with those kind of crimes, and we have a unit in Nevis. So most of the units we have in St. Kitts, all of the units we have in St. Kitts is mirrored in Nevis. Because it's one federation. The Cybercrime Unit primarily deals with going into electronic devices, be it computers, be it phones, to solicit whatever evidence that is necessary to support an investigation that is going on. We have the Forensic Unit. That unit in and of itself speaks about DNA, fingerprint, collecting those kind of evidence to be able to support an investigation that is ongoing. DNA that is collected oftentimes sent overseas to forensic laboratories to do some further analysis to determine if anything was found on a particular scene that can be tied back to assist an investigation department. We have Local Intelligence Office. They collect data from all the crimes that take place throughout the Federation, and they are the ones that provide statistics. They assist us with preventing crimes. They tell us where the hotspots are going to be, where criminal activity is being increased to assist the operation directorate in areas where to focus more on the patrols and things of that nature. So the local intelligence office is a very, very important department that we use to spearhead a lot of things that we are doing. We have the criminal record office, which collect data and information on criminal activities of individuals in the federation, be it persons who have been convicted or whatever the case may be. They collect all the information there. Notwithstanding, we also have the Special Victims Unit. That's a particular unit specially designed to deal with juveniles and sexual offenses. So we have a set of highly trained individuals set aside and apart just to deal with those kind of offenses. And we have the National Prosecution Service. Sergeant Richards is a prosecutor there. And that is where they assist. They work under the tutelage of the Director of Public Prosecution, where they assist and they prosecute some matters. They deal with paper committals. They deal with, trust me, they deal with 90% of the criminal matters.
Wow.
It is said that most of the criminal matters are disposed of at the magistrate court. So we have the highly trained and experienced senior officers, such as Sergeant Richards, who prosecute criminal matters in the magistrate level.
Okay.
And that's primarily covered the units that are under the crime directorate.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Superintendent. My second question, how has the pandemic affected your respective departments overall?
Okay, that's a good question, Sergeant Richards. As you know, we're in a pandemic, and this has been so for well over 1 year. If I serves me right, I think from December of 2019 we were hearing about it, and then it spilled over into 2020, and then from March we were really locked down, and it has put a tremendous strain not just on us here ourselves, but the organization as a whole, because we went into lockdown, we went into curfews, and then the pandemic actually reached St. Kitts, where we had our first case early up in the year, and it trickles down. And we were quite fine at the time because we had to make some serious adjustments to the pandemic and the way of life, because we were mostly considering our health. We know abroad, internationally, people were dying, and you know, we love life so well in St. Kitts that we don't want to die. All right, and then it came down to 2021. I think that was the greatest impact, where different variants came about and cases started to spread like wildfire, so to speak, because of some maybe irresponsible behavior of our people who are not adhering to the COVID-19 rules and regulations. So my department was faced, and I specifically point out to the drug squad. The drug squad comprises of just about 10 persons at this time. And all of our guys, we had 50% of them were affected by the virus itself. And then because they work as a group, they had to be in quarantine. So that unit was dormant for 14 days and more. So there was no activities from them. The SSU, on the other hand, we didn't suffer any major setback in terms of persons getting the virus. However, some persons who were connected, because drug squad and SSU, they work hand in hand, and some persons who might have been affiliated with them in close contact had to be quarantined, but the numbers was very minimal. And then, because the pandemic is so wide, persons has to go home to their families, and then families were found to be contaminated with the virus, positive cases, and thus these persons during the contact tracing, they had to be quarantined, and thank God that they weren't positive. So, but one thing I'll point out though, Sergeant Richards, the guys at the units, all three, anti-gang, SSU, drug squad, and the K9, they understand the nature of the virus. They understand our call for protection, follow the protocols, and then of late we understand that the vaccine was the only way to go to help protect. And because we are so involved in the entire pandemic and the duties that entails, remember the lockdown that we had, the supermarkets, panic shopping and all of that, and we had to restore order. And so we were involved in people's face and around, and so they understand if we are protected in some means, that we will be okay. So my unit, we are 99.9% vaccinated. You could only find maybe about one person who not vaccinated, and that is a person's right, right? So we took a stand without forcing anyone forward, and they understand the nature of the job. They understand that they could be exposed to their families, friends, loved ones, and we took initiative to take vaccine, and we continuously ask our people to practice the non-pharmaceutical measures. The wearing of the mask, the social and physical distances, sometimes it's difficult, but and the hand sanitizing. All right, so yes, we were affected, but I don't think on a large measure, with the exception of the drug unit. The anti-gang, they have a large percentage of vaccination, and they too has had the opportunity to keep themselves safe, because we know we have to serve the public, and for that in that area.
Yes, sir. From my end, we have, as I indicated from the beginning, we have a lot of different subunits, not as large as Superintendent Rogers. Some units comprise of 6 persons, some units have 8, and some units have 1, like the criminal record office. So what happened? How has the pandemic affected this unit? We had to follow the guidelines of the CMO and those sort of things that come out to give us information that touch and concern the pandemic. We have to follow the protocols and policies set out by the Commissioner of Police and the High Command. Early o'clock, we saw a lot of hand sanitizer being ordered and distributed throughout the police headquarters. So everywhere you turn, you had hand sanitizers. Each department were given gloves and masks and things of that nature. So you saw the High Command making an exerted effort to ensure that the masses, the staff that fall part and parcel of the organization have all that is required to do non-pharmaceutical measures. So our department embarked on a learning curve, just like the entire world. The pandemic is new to all of us, so we were steadily learning what to do, what not to do. At first, we have changed from the norm. We worked the long hours. The hours became a little longer in terms of because we had to focus on investigation and at the same time assist with operations in terms of patrols. So you find the hours began to get very long. So you find that persons at first were a little disgruntled. So we find that I had to have several meetings with individuals and remind. Sometimes we need to just a little reminder, because over the years, things are going a particular way, and then when you're asked to dig deep, and civilians might not see what is going on because they're not part and parcel of us working as the organization, as police officers and law enforcement. And we were asked to dig deep, so we had several meetings taking place generally and different departments to sensitize the general body as to what development is and what to look for, and what we as supervisors and the High Command is asking of you. You have to dig deep because that is a requirement of the Federation. That's your call to duty. So a lot of the staff, they understood and they appreciated what was said to them, and you find that person buckled down and they dug deep and they held on. We had very few persons reporting sick. Who reported sick were persons who were part of the contact tracing. So we had a few persons who came down positive, but it's not necessarily, they came down positive after finding out that they were a part of the contact tracing. So you find persons who didn't have symptoms, but because, I'm not saying a person was working among the police didn't have symptoms, but because of the vigorous work that was being done by the COVID team, anytime a situation arises and they do the contact tracing, they find out that Tom was among such and such. You find 1 or 2 of the officers when we get information that you might have come in close contact with such and such, and we would have you go aside and isolate you in a bit and go to the medical facilities and they would deal with you there. Some persons came back negative after being quarantined for a while. Some persons 1 or 2 were positive, and then eventually when they were cleared, they were asked to come back. So we did not see any contamination per se, but a lot of other divisions, we did not have to assist with manning personnel from Superintendent Rogers, but we have other divisions that, like outstations, where an entire shift was in quarantine, and we had to take personnel from the National Prosecution Service, because at the time the prosecution team were on a low because court was on break because of the shutdown. So you find persons from that team had to go and pull shift in the police station. So we find that we work together as an organization. So although we have a lot of subdivisions, it's each one help one. So it affects all of us. It affects all of us. So individually you find personally affect me, family-wise. You find it affected a lot of the families of the staff. So we had to sensitize them as well. Even further, we followed things that we see on TV, where when you go home, as you go home, you don't go and sit down and start to watch TV and hug up your kids. You go home, you step by your door, you sanitize, go straight in the bathroom, take off your clothes, put them in the hamper, and you go and take a shower and put on some fresh clothes. So we sensitize the staff along the line, and we followed what was going on, and we find that helped a lot. So the organization was going very long without any form of having any COVID at all among our ranks until the 1 or 2 trickled in. But I want to thank the persons who are going around and doing contact tracing. That they've done a very, very, very good job. So anything spiked, we nip it, and you find that the ranks are going on strong.
So that was quite comprehensive. So in all that you both said, how would you say that policing had to change for your respective departments during the pandemic? If you could give us an example of how things were before and how they are now.
Okay, that's another important question, Sergeant Richards. Before the pandemic, it was basically a free-for-all. Basically, we go out and executed our duties. We carry out the High Command's mandate, and it was without fear or favor as part of our policing plans. But after the pandemic strikes, we were taught, first and foremost at training school, that self-preservation is first and foremost. And this was not different. The pandemic came, and we understand the nature of it. We understand it was a deadly virus, and it spread very easily, and it could affect lives and livelihood. So it really put a tremendous strain on how we had to adapt. And I will give an example, and especially in the latter part of the pandemic and the spreading of the virus throughout the Federation. Our units, the drug squad and SSC, we're accustomed to do lots of searches. We say drug interdiction, firearms, apprehension and interdiction, so therefore, whether they be on sea or on land. And we were forced not to carry out searches such as that because we weren't aware of where the virus, where it is. Who has it? Because it's not printed on our faces saying, hey, look, now you got a big C and 19 on your forehead. So we had to work cautiously, but in the same breath, we have a duty to protect the people and the country. And we couldn't let the virus slow us down so much so that persons were allowed to be free for all, to commit crimes and to have guns running around doing what they may. So it was a pressure on us to say, look now, on a needs basis, we are going to search this particular house. Because, like I said, we can't let it run free for all. But it was very limited because we was afraid our police force is 400 and something strong. And we was afraid to contract the virus on the outside and bring it on the inside and spread it around. And then the police force will be such unhealthy where we can't execute our duties. And then it would be now the criminals or the would-be criminals allowed to run free to do what they want because we were so understaffed based on our health. So it really hit us hard in that area. But what we did, Superintendent Francis mentioned something, and I was happy he mentioned it because I had it listed down, a collective effort, because we were affected in one way. We understand the nature of working together to accomplish our mission, and that we did well. You heard how he said he had to assist different departments who were weakened by the virus. And that turned the whole scope of policing to a different level. It was a mental strain on our people because to the lockdown, to financial obligations that some of our officers had to go through. I know that we were being paid, but their families were being affected. And when your family is affected and bills are not paid, the strain would be on you who are making the monies. And then, of course, your pocket would be weakened. And it really spread a whole blanket over us. But we have survived, and we are surviving. And I think through the good health personnel and the internet and our medical staff who are sensitizing us, we're slowly coming through it, and we understand that the need to do this and to do that. And I would add something too. We were equipped with, given rather, by the medical personnel, some PPEs, personal protection equipment, to help execute our duties. These are stuff that we have never done to perform any duties. They are hot, but they are a form of protection. So we would see us in these white gowns like we're in a lab. It's not easy, so we could execute duties for a long time in these, but they are means of protection. And that's one other area that we have to adjust to. We're never called to deal with persons who's refusing to go to a quarantine, government quarantine site. But in this case, we are accustomed to call to say, hey, you have drugs, you have gun, you have knives, you have a break-in, Superintendent Francis respond. But here we are called to do persons refusing to go, respect the medical people and refusing to go to a government-appointed quarantine site. So we have to suit up and go and deal with that. And it's not, you can't go in anymore and break down a door and grab people and take them out and say you're resisting and so on. It was a one-on-one consultation, talk, get people to understand and say, look, now we have to take it to a site. And persons was very resistful. And we had a situation where a person left quarantine site and persons were positive and were seen on the road and they should be at home because there was an overwhelming number and we had to keep people at home and they're not adhering. So they're going to supermarkets, they're going on the road, and then the SSU and drug squad are called in to go to apprehend these persons. So of course the officers will be fearful because they're going to open. I wonder if this man resists. I wonder if he fight me, what we'll do, because we cannot back down because the people of the nation depends on us. And so we have to find ways and means to carry out these duties, to ensure that he is safe, we are safe, and then the country is safe. So yes, Sergeant, it was really affected the scope of duties before to now. But I said, like everything else is new, and we are understanding the role, and we know how to be cautious and deal with the situation. And it has strengthened a lot of our officers. All right. So I'll end there for that.
Yeah. What I would say from an investigative standpoint, crime directive standpoint, is that we found that police officer duty is always to have discussion at times. So you find from time to time, on a normal daily basis, you have a little discussion and you will let one or two things slide by talking to people and giving a warning. But you find with the COVID, you have to have a little bit more discretion because you have certain persons did certain things and you have the right to arrest them, and you would have arrested them under normal circumstances. However, because of the unseen enemy that we don't know exists, if that person might be the one to have COVID,
Indeed.
and you end up arrest that person and take them into custody, and then that person steady and contaminate the entire area with other police officers, you find that police officers had to exercise a lot of discussion. Even more so, you had some members of the public saying, why you didn't do this, why you didn't do that? And not understanding that there was a bigger picture that the police is looking at. So you find from time to time we had to do things of that nature, and we had to strategize. In every investigation, we had discussions prior to going out and doing an execution. Sometimes I had to talk to my team about and say, listen, we would have gone and searched Tom Jones' house for completeness. However, we're not going to search it because we don't know what we're going to meet. So we executed search warrants on a definite basis. So we cut back on our search warrants because the unseen enemy. So a lot of strategies had to be put in place because of COVID. More so now things have are moving along and we are better understanding the virus and we are better understanding the situation, and we've been told by the health personnel that we have to learn to live with COVID. So as we understand the virus more by virtue of our medical personnel, that is where we continue to strategize and determine what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And as Superintendent Waters did indicate, PPE, staff wearing PPE. Once upon a time, only the forensic unit used to put on PPE. Now you see officers coming to your house in white gown. They want to know what's going on. So you find that a lot of that happens. Officers have to be engaged in that kind of way of crime fighting now. And even from time to time, the criminal investigation department would have to go to the airport to accept persons who are deported from other countries. You find that had to change as well. We would go just to take a little note now, and then that person would get deported, go straight to the quarantine site. And then after they're cleared from the quarantine site, there is now we can go and interact with them once we get it okay. So you find things have changed, but it's still a learning curve. And we're still understanding the virus, and we're still understanding what we can do or cannot do with reference to policing in an effort to protect ourselves and protect our loved ones and our co-workers. Yes, sir.
Yes, Superintendent. So clearly we see where things have policing has not only changed, but we have to live with these changes.
Yes, definitely.
And if I understand you all correctly, this period has put a high level of stress. Well, has added to an already stressful job.
Yes.
In terms of making it more stressful,
yes.
But officers were able to cope nonetheless. Superintendent Francis, this is a question specifically for you. As the deputy head of the crime directorate, what impact has the pandemic had on crime and the commission of different offences?
Impact on crime. Okay. At first, you found when we had the complete lockdown, while some persons were upset, some personnel were upset, they can't move around and they cannot go here and can't go there. My department was somewhat smiling. When I say smiling in the sense that we're smiling because we're not getting any reports of individuals saying that their house was broken into. We're not getting any reports of robbery. We're not getting any reports of even larceny or malicious damage. So you find crime took a dip because you can't move. You have to be confined to your house. So with reference to the crime directorate, the impact was at first with complete lockdown there was a dip, and you find slowly as things open up, the crime started to come back in. But I want to thank God that the serious crimes were not trickling in as fast as before. You understand? So we had an opportunity during those quiet times to sort of fix a lot of cases that we had to deal with. So we got an opportunity to sit down and investigate and put case files together and get our nooks and crannies and do paper committals and things like that. It was clerical work because investigators not only out there and as people say looking pretty, there's a lot of behind the doors sitting down and typing and putting this together and interviewing this person and that. So at first we were glad because less crime coming in and we had an opportunity to sit down and get our work done together. And then as things evolve, we now have a lot more, I wouldn't say free time, but we have not as much burden as we would have been carrying. So we have a lot more opportunity now to face the music and investigate crimes more so.
So we've seen then that crime has reduced more or less.
Yes.
As a result of the pandemic. Okay.
And basically on the flip side, where the pandemic would have had some atrocities to us, it still helped us in a lot of ways. Because the truth is, I know we can't stay lockdown forever, but I used to enjoy the lockdown. Honestly, I felt like I could have drive the street of Bastille and the country free.
Unimpeded.
Yeah, free from people and free from a rum shop, free from a bar with a lot of people. So, everybody was home. And it really had some dividend to us in terms of the reduction of crime. But what we could have mentioned, Superintendent Francis, what we saw was domestic matters were on the rise.
Yeah, that's true.
I wouldn't even elaborate here because it's not, but you could quite understand that at 8 in the morning, we leave at home and we not return till 6. But our people were in each other's face. We're not accustomed to have that in-your-face interaction. But I was happy for the lockdown, but not happy for the domestic cases because it caused some woundings and some simple stuff. We had persons. While I was in Division B, because I was in B, I only came down in A from October. We had persons who were injuring brothers and cousins with machetes because a fella do something in the house, a fella take up your thing from the refrigerator because everybody is in it at the face. A man might buy more stuff than some and he eat his person's stuff. You know, a simple case was that a fella had a bed, small housing, he took a bed from in a bedroom, put it in the living room because he was hot. There was too much person in the house. And the one brother was upset, he was there, interrupting the free flow. And they had a fight, and they chopped each other. So we saw a domestic increase in crimes, but we're thanking God that for the good superintendent and his team, and they're working assiduously and things like these. And now we're open up. I think it has been reduced somewhat. Yes.
It's getting there, it's going down.
Yeah.
So in other words, the pandemic would have caused a reduction in certain crimes, but an increase in others.
Yes. But overall, I think I don't have the physical statistics here, but overall, we're quite down. You see one or two like larcenies with some people, theft, and I will speak to Superintendent Francis, malicious damage, but these are crimes that relates to what is happening psychologically with our people. And so they choose to take up a man water because he don't have money to buy water. And do acts of dishonesty during the process. So it's a troublesome period for us, but we are getting there. And we are working hard with the High Command, guiding us and contributing to the overall thing that we're really getting there. Yeah.
Sergeant, I would permit you to ask one more question, and then we can wrap it up, so we can get ready for National Assembly coming up next.
No, not a problem at all, GQ. So, Superintendent Francis, just as Superintendent Rogers would have indicated, the tactical units have a specific mandate that they have to carry out. So too, do we know that the detectives and the personnel of the forensic unit and the other members of the crime directorate have specific roles to play? To what extent have the men and women in the crime directorate been impacted and are affected?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, they have been affected by virtue of the fact that work itself. If you're in a matter of uncertainty, if you're functioning in uncertainty, you're not sure what to do. Persons are affected. So because the pandemic is a learning curve, you find individuals attend several meetings because they have a lot of questions and they have a lot of concerns.
And you have to provide answers.
Even so, with the increase and persons were talking about to travel a certain amount of persons in the bus and things of that nature. The discussions took place, and you find that the High Command had to reach to a point where they made a strong suggestion where necessary. Take your officers home and bring them back. Try to avoid them from using the bus. So you find that during lockdown and stuff like that, and during this height, we in the units, we were taking officers as far as Sunny Point, in further wherever they live, and then the other shift go and pick you up to bring you to work. So you find officers were very, very, very concerned about because we are all human beings. Some persons in society would not want to think of police officers and law enforcement officers as human beings. They would think of us as robots. Just go, and when we call you, you come. But generally, and realistically, we are human beings. We have family and loved ones just like you. We have feelings just like you. So being a supervisor, we have to tap into and continuously sensitize and reassure the staff that we are there for you and we are looking out for you. So when the commissioner sends down a mandate, a concern, or whatever instructions he sees necessary to adjust things, we have to trickle it down and add to it where necessary to let the general staff know that you are here working hard for us, but we are here for you still, and these are the things we are willing to do for you.
Well, thank you very much, Superintendent. Any closing remarks from both of you, please?
Yes, definitely. I would like to just to say, besides having me here and thanking you for letting us be your guests, and I spoke candidly about my department, but we couldn't have done this alone because it's not a one department show here. we had to do a lot of zonal patrols, and we had to include the entire force. But wholeheartedly, who I want to thank is the St. Kitts Nevis Defence Force. They are our brothers, our neighbors just there. They have been instrumental in being a part of the holistic pandemic duties. We have persons attached with us from the Defence Force, and I want to thank the Lieutenant Colonel Comrie for rendering us that assistance. I also want to thank the Customs and Excise Department. We utilize their canines a lot to help with the overall aspect of our duties. And they also is a part of the anti-gang. The anti-gang is made up of 3 departments, police, St. Kitts Nevis Defence Force, and customs. And so I want to thank these 2 departments wholeheartedly for their contribution, and we wish them all the luck and blessings on them, and we ask for their continued support. And I want to thank the Commissioner, thank ACP Adams, who is my directorate head, and he has been very instrumental in continue advancing our departments forward. So thank you, ACP Adams, if you're listening. And I'm sure Superintendent Francis would say something about his director.
Yes, what I would like to say is thank you, GQ. Thank you, Sergeant Richards, for having me here. I wanna say to the general public, thank you for understanding, because bad news travel fast, and you find that if one bad thing happens, it might reflect as though it is the general consensus of everybody. But I find that St. Kitts people love police, and they love to do what is right. So I want to thank the general public for doing that. We are still in a pandemic, because I heard that America is in their 4th wave, and there's a new Delta variant, and I'm sure there are different variants that will come around. So what we discuss here today is not just for today. It's not over. We are still, the police is still out there doing some extra work. The police is still out there, and we're still functioning under some SRNOs, and we still have to do our work. So I wanna thank the general public for understanding and doing what is asked of them for the law enforcement officers. I want to thank the Commissioner of Police for having meetings with different persons and trickling it down to the staff, so to ensure that the entire police populace is safe. I want to thank my ACP crime, Mr. Mitchell. He's a visionary, and he loves to ensure that certain things are in place to not only solve crime, but he always tell me, we have to help, we have to assist. And so although our mandate might be crime and fighting crime and investigation, we still have meetings, and so they were saying, we got to assist. So we still lend of our assistance to either man the guard room with manpower, or do some extra patrols over in Figure Bay that we are doing right now. Because when one unit is down or one department is down, we stretch our legs and we assist, because if we don't assist, it's more work for us. So we as a police force continue to work together. We continue to work together to serve the public, because we have to give them a high level of service, and we will continue doing that. We want to ask the general public to be patient with us. It's a learning curve. The COVID and these different things we're doing is a learning curve. We want to thank them and ask them to continue to support us as we assist them. Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Superintendent Francis and Rogers. I want to thank you both for coming here and, for want of a better word, humanizing the police force, GQ. I think it is important, it is extremely important that even though we are seen in a particular way, the perception of us is a particular one. However, I believe it is also important that the public understand that the police are humans too. The police were just as adversely affected by all that's going on as any other member of the public. However, the difference is we still have a mandate to carry out, to protect and serve, while protecting and serving ourselves and keeping ourselves and our families safe. So I want to thank you both again for coming here. GQ, this has been another edition of Policing with You. I want to thank our listeners, both home and in the diaspora, as well as our viewers via the internet. Thank you for tuning in. As usual, do tune in. I've been your host for this week, Sergeant Trevor Richards. Thank the good people at National Bank for always supporting us. Do tune in again next week for another edition of Policing with You.
All the segregation, all our but foundation, oh, let us unite as one.
ATM lines to withdraw cash. Use your national debit or black cards to complete a wide variety of transactions at supermarkets, variety stores, gas